So we'll start with the question of what, if any, changes would you like to see in the manner in which judges are selected in Minnesota? To that point, I don't think anyone's arguing to maintain the status quo. Should the process be the same for all levels, district, appellate, and Supreme Courts? And we'll start on this side, again, with whoever wants to take up that question first.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, first I'll start with the last part of the question, which is, the solution I'm about to suggest is one that would apply to all levels. And what I would like to see is a system in which we do have transparency, we have accountability, and the voter has information. And that the voters get to choose who is, so we have a choice to fire bad judges. And our suggestion for our proposal would be to have a retention election system with performance evaluation and merit selection. And what this does is allows the voter every single time to make a decision about who is going to be their judge and whether or not they performed. And again, when we hear these stories, when we hear the stories that we saw in the video, those are exactly the kind of cases. Those people would be empowered to say this is a bad judge and get rid of that judge.
We'll give an opportunity for the other side to state an answer to that same question.
Well, in the interest of full disclosure, first of all, I should tell you I was the Republican-endorsed candidate for judge in the 10th Judicial District race, the crazy one where there were 24 candidates. You may recall that, so you should know that. I am definitely in favor of retaining the system that we have now of electing judges, which has been in place for over 150 years, has been in our Constitution. There are fair points to be made on the other side. Of course, the main knock on judicial elections is that it tends to draw special interest groups spending obscene amounts of money, and the campaigns can turn nasty. And the thought is that that can't happen with retention elections, but there are a number of examples of where that has happened. Illinois, last election, the Supreme Court Chief Justice raised $2.5 million, primarily from the Democratic Party in Illinois. It was a retention election. He did win, but there were special interest groups on the other side that were trying to get him ousted, who also spent large sums of money. The Brennan Center for Justice, which is very much in favor of merit selection and retention election, said that in 2007 and 2008 in Wisconsin and in 2006 in Georgia, the nonpartisan races were just as costly and nasty as the partisan races. And one that everyone in the room may be aware of, in the last election, there were 3 Iowa Supreme Court justices who were ousted, and there were outside the state special interest groups that came in, spent a lot of money, and got those 3 justices ousted. The problem was the system in Illinois takes quite a while to get the replacement selected, and so there's a period of time, I don't know how long, where those 3 positions were vacant. The other problem is that the selection committee in Iowa, all but one of the members was affiliated with one particular party. I won't even tell you which party it is because it doesn't matter. The problem is with these commissions, the power is in the commission, and when you have power in the commission, then you have everybody fighting to get on that commission because then they have the power to select the judges. The other problem with retention elections, beyond the fact that it's not true that large sums of money and nasty campaigns don't happen, they tend to be 11th hour sort of ambush kinds of campaigns. And secondly, they tend to be single issue. In Iowa, the 3 Supreme Court justices were ousted over the issue of abortion. Now, whichever side you fall on the issue of abortion, the point is it was a single issue, and do we really want elections to be about a single issue rather than the judge's entire record over a number of years? So, yes, there can be a lot of spending. We know there is a lot of spending, and there can be nasty campaigns in open contested elections. But in the end, the commissions that select judicial candidates are not transparent. They are not accountable. We don't know who's on the commission. They can be heavily weighted in favor of one political party or the Trial Lawyers Association. In the end, I think open contested elections, if we've got information out to people about who these judicial candidates are, so that people could make informed decisions, you have better transparency, better accountability, and it's the best way to elect judges or select judges in this state.
I have to imagine you've got a response to that.
Yes, first of all, within Iowa, the issue was on the issue of marriage, and the voters did have the opportunity to fire the judges because of how they acted. And I think that's what we're looking for, is that opportunity when judges do make a bad decision by the views of the people, that they have the opportunity to remove them. Now, so I think that there's great merit in the retention system. Now, one of the things about the money involved with it, yes, there's going to be money involved in the elections, but I think with the retention election system, you're going to have less money engaged in it. Working with the business community, they are inclined to say, okay, who's going to fund this anyways? We are. So why do we want to have more money spent in this? Why don't we just use a merit selection commission and performance review? Businesses use performance review every day. If you're a mid-sized company, how many people have performance review? They check you out, what you're going on and what you do. What difference is that if we have that with the judges?
I think that when you hear performance reviews, that suggests that there's some objectivity in the performance of the judge. But as I said before, the idea of objectivity is philosophically bankrupt. We all know we're subjective, we're political actors. When you put on a robe, you don't become objective. And so, and critically in the bill that Governor Cui has proposed, the performance reviews don't involve evaluating the decisions of the judge, you see? And so, if the judge says marriage is between two people of the same sex or two people of different sexes, well, they're not going to review that. Whose rationality, whose justice, right? Only the people should determine who judges are in this day and age. Not the governor, not a retention election. The people must decide who their judges are. And one thing to consider, too, is how few criminal defense lawyers have made it to the U.S. Supreme Court. Very few. Those are the people who really do the hard work against the government. So you see how biased it is towards the government. And so the people need to elect the judges so we get fair-minded judges on the bench.
At one point, I asked the Judicial Selection Commission whether they had ever recommended for appointment an attorney who sued government. And I have never had any such attorney identified for me, ever. The courts are supposed to be the watchdog of the government. But I'd like to come at this from a completely different direction, and that is what we gain from requiring an elected official to campaign is we gain someone who can, number one, take criticism. Because I cannot tell you how many times my clients have problems with a judge who cannot take any criticism. I mean, how can you give an objective, mature decision about something if it's always about you? You know, if the judge makes it about himself instead of about the parties. So number one, in the crucible of the campaign trail, you get used to taking criticism. If you haven't been criticized before you run for office, you will be when you run. That's one thing for sure. But also, people self-select to run for office. They don't always self-select to go into the closed room, by the way, non-public meetings of Judicial Selection Commission. They get calls, some people get calls, or the law firm gets a call, who do we want to put up for judge from your firm? But people self-select to run for office, and it takes courage. And if there's one thing we need in judges, it's courage. Because you have to do the right thing sometimes in the face of newspaper articles who say you should do something else, or politicians who say you should do something else. And if you think the phone calls don't fly behind the scenes, think again. So this whole notion that we can't trust the public to make the decision about who to decide, apparently we should trust instead a small group of people. But unless we have judges with courage, the whole notion that it's a separate branch of government that is the watchdog of the other two is out the window.
Yeah, well, I think there's a few things that stood out to me. One, Chris mentioned that we've had a system of contested elections. But the reality is that over 90% of the current judges never were initially brought onto the bench in a contested election. And moreover, when people are currently in a contested election, the majority of them don't face an opponent. And when they do, no one has any information about it. And what's interesting is the other thing that Jill said that really stood out to me was that she said, how can you make an objective decision when it's about you? And one of the things that strikes me about sort of these two perspectives is I'm not an attorney, but all of the people who are saying that they want contested elections are attorneys. And to me, this really is about people who aren't attorneys and who deal with the justice system every single day and work with the people in the justice system. And I'm not an attorney, and I don't think this should be a discussion about from an attorney's perspective. It should be about the people who actually have to go up against it. And other than your personal experience, or if you don't have a personal experience, you have no understanding of what's going on in the court system. And I would like one system in which I can go to that's reliable and consistent and find information out about the judges.